Well, if you're in need of a change in scenery during this snowy, sub-zero winter, look no further than downtown Rochester. Thanks to the vision and talents of Origami, prepare to submerge into the lost world of Atlantis. Balloon Manor is back at the Sibley Building for a second year. And Origami founder Larry Moss and artistic director Kelly Cheadle are here today with all the details. Thanks for coming in. You guys have been busy for the past 4 days, building. Origami is such a fun word. What does that mean, and how did this come to be?
Well, I started as a street magician in New York City in Central Park. And as I built and tried drawing larger audiences, I realized I needed something gimmicky that could be seen at a distance. And balloons were seen a lot further than the close-up magic I was doing. So the balloons were really just something I used to attract a crowd. And eventually I realized that if the balloons were attracting the crowd, there was really no need for me to do the magic at all. I could just fall back on the balloons. And I just had so much fun playing with them that I used them in storytelling, and I would build costumes out of them and scenery, and eventually, grew to the point that I kind of dropped the performance side of it and focused on the visual art. Mm-hmm.
And Kelly, you have a background in design and bring some other qualities to the table. When did you get involved with Origami?
It was during Balloon Manor, the original incarnation of Balloon Manor a few years ago. I found out that there was a giant community art project in my backyard, made with thousands upon thousands of balloons, and I just had to be involved. I did notice that his posters needed some help, so I sent him an email and I said, "You need my help. I'm going to help you." And that one email changed the course of my entire life.
So what was the first big project that you worked on?
Balloon Manor.
Okay.
It was Elastic Park?
Yeah, I think it was Elastic Park.
Oh, okay.
The very first thing I made, most people start off with little tiny dogs.
Right.
I made a skeleton. So it's like, sure, I can make a skeleton, why not?
Wow. And since it's the second year you're back at the Sibley Building, why the Sibley Building? Why was that important?
Well, I fell in love with the building when I first walked into it like 25 years ago. I just thought it was a great place, and it hasn't been used for a lot for a number of years. And when the wind companies bought it, and new owner, I said, let's approach them and see if they'd be willing to let us play and work with us. And they're interested in doing that, and and we have a studio downtown, so we're interested in the effort to bring more people downtown. They wanted to revitalize a building downtown, so it was just a great partnership, and the space is phenomenal.
It's really gorgeous.
And last year's exhibit took us up 5 stories with Jack and the Beanstalk, and this year's is a little bit different, kind of we're going down under the sea. Tell us what people can expect for this year's display.
Well, they'll be able to see, probably when they first walk in, they'll be greeted by a giant octopus if they park in the nearby convenient garage. And they'll notice that the octopus is actually pulling down a giant pirate ship. So as you sort of travel up the escalators and around the building, you'll see everything from rats abandoning a sinking ship to mermaids and tons of sea creatures and a sort of undersea world of Atlantis. So tons of stuff for you to just wander around and look at. People spend like half the day last year just looking at all the details that were around.
Right, and the building is also a community activity. People come out to see progress and check in kind of every day. How has that been going so far?
Well, the people building, we have 65 artists from around the world. The one that came furthest this year was from Australia. And these are all artists that just want, some of them have a lot of experience with balloons, some have experience in other forms of art like Kelly did when she started. And then there are others that have never played with balloons before that just are fascinated by the idea. And some of them local that have signed up and joined, and then the community from outside that aren't building with us. More and more people come, and there have been a few people that have come by every day to see the change, and some have asked if they can be on the list to join us next year to help. So we're seeing a lot of repeat people. We're seeing people that have been coming that came last year that said, I couldn't wait to see this, or I saw it when it was finished last year. I wanted to see the process now.
Yeah.
So it's definitely drawing a lot of interest.
How much planning goes into a balloon manor? You're done with
Exhale.
one, and then you start the next year's.
Yeah, they're probably 6 months worth of engineering and planning and spreadsheets and all sorts of drawings that go into a single event like this.
And there's some technical aspects involved as well, as far as whatever space you're in and wiring.
So Richard Hewson does all of the rigging and all of the technical stuff for us. The first time I had asked him to help with the project, I just knew, he's been a friend for years, and I knew that his expertise would come in handy. He remember him looking at me and saying, "But what am I going to do? I don't really do anything with balloons, so don't worry, we'll keep you busy." And he is probably the busiest person on the crew, between being the only rigger there and being the guy that repairs equipment when it breaks, and in some cases helps design new equipment when we don't have something that does quite what we need. So yeah, it's all the public sees are balloons, but there's a whole lot behind the scenes that you just don't think about. What
are some of the other balloon manors that of years past that you've done?
Well, last year we did, the very tall tale of Jack and his beanstalk, and that was a sort of new iteration of Balloon Manor, because previously it had been a very large-scale haunted house.
Right, so the haunted house was 10 rooms, you walked through, it was a tour, and one of the things that changed in the years when we switched from the haunted house to this style of aesthetic sculpture was that people didn't like waiting in lines. We would attract 10,000 people to see it, and they had to stand in line waiting for a turn to go through, whereas now you can walk up to it, see the whole thing, take it in, travel around it at your own pace. What else? We had one year, when it was a haunted house, it was dinosaur themed, it was Elastic Park. What else did we have? We had Ghoul School, where we trained the monsters for the upcoming year. There
was always a little story that went through each of them, and I think that piece has continued.
Yeah, the story is important to us. We spend a lot of time.
How do you come up with those ideas?
Well, this year, remember last year in the middle of it, somebody walked up to me with a TV camera and said, "So what are you going to do next year?" And I said, "I don't know, maybe Under the Sea."
And I heard that and went, "Oh, yes, that's what we're doing."
And then, so following the popping party for last year, you probably started right on that. And so take us through some of the events that happen with Balloon Manor. There's the build, and then there's something new this year that happened to time out just right for you guys.
So this year is the year that, for those of you that remember Back to the Future, Marty McFly travels into the future and lands in 2015. But in the original movie, he travels back to 1955, and his parents fall in love at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. And I've always kind of wanted to throw an Enchantment Under the Sea party this year, just to celebrate, and it just so happened that we had this giant undersea themed sculpture, and we thought this would be such a fun idea to throw a party, invite the community in, and just have like an old school prom, and we're gonna have people from the Rochester Swing Dance Network come and dance. We're gonna have a live band. It should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, so we don't have a time machine, but we do have.
We almost had a DeLorean, though.
Yeah. Wow. So if anybody wants to show up with a DeLorean, that would
with
be cool.
The salt and the snow, we didn't really want to risk it.
Might not. So there, at the end, because Balloon Manor obviously doesn't last forever, you kind of invite the whole community to come in and help you take it down. How does that work?
Well, for starters, I've got to say, in my mind, it does last forever, because what we're creating is memories for people. That, to me, is the most important part about art, that I think people should see it and take something with them and remember it. But the actual medium that it's created with is temporary, so we celebrate that and make it a giant popping party. Everybody can come, get turns popping.
If you like bubble wrap, this is like
way better.
Way better.
Right.
And we have prizes or coupons for prizes tucked inside a lot of balloons. What do we have? We're up to close to 100.
Yeah, we've got a lot of coupons on that.
So you'll get you go in, you get 2 minutes or whatever the timing. I don't even.
We'll have to figure out how many people show up, and then that determines how much time you get.
Right.
And then local community businesses are helping us out. Is this sort of project takes more than just two people and an idea.
Right.
So
Right. So the events are free except for the popping party. Is that right? People can come
Right.
in through March 8th, check out the sculptures. Is it better to start from the bottom and work your way up, or do you think for this one you started up top and worked your way down the escalators?
there's stuff to see on every floor. Even music that can be found if you're looking for it.
I think it's interesting because last year, we had a classic fairy tale that already had a story and that had a definite linear time.
Sure.
But this year, we didn't have a story that we were really going from. We kind of created the story. So depending on how you walk in, you may experience a different story just because of where you started.
I'd actually be interested in hearing what people think, what story they see and read into all of it. We actually have something that we've been discussing for months, that this is what happened, this is how we got to this point in the story, this is what happens next. But yeah, since it isn't a traditional story that everybody knows, it will be interesting to hear what they tell us they're seeing in it.
Right. Do you have a favorite part of the sculpture, Kelly?
It's always, my favorite part of the sculpture, I guess, is the fact that the sculpture started off as like a line drawing and then was divided out into separate pieces and handed out to 60 people to put together. And like suddenly there's this ship that was just a thought in our minds, and it's now, I don't want to say concrete because they're latex balloons, but it's now this physical object. So that's fantastic. But it's always the little tiny details that the crew members bring to the table, because we have the grand scheme and they add suggestions for small elements. And so someone's added little rats that are escaping the sinking ship, and when you stop by the sculpture, you have to check them out because they're just adorable.
Those are probably the only kind of rats I would
They're actually cute
call
rats.
adorable.
Yes.
Larry, do you have a favorite part?
Well, same thing. I love seeing what the artists put in that they'll often slide things in there and try to hide them from us until the last minute. It started with one member of the crew, Todd, would always stick a red balloon dog someplace, and it wasn't supposed to be obvious until you saw it, and then you couldn't ignore
like
it.
Where's Waldo?
But
Yes.
now it's grown that these are more elaborate pieces and actually story elements rather than just an object.
Okay. Has there ever been an idea that presented a specific challenge for you, or anything that you couldn't create? It seems kind of, the possibilities are endless.
There was, for years, I had wanted to do Botticelli's Birth of Venus, and I had spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to make it, and we did eventually do it. And that was in a gallery for a while, and we made a print of that because it was just, it fit in with the whole series of print work that we've done. But that, for a long time, getting the very smooth skin and all of the curves of Venus, and capturing that when you're working with a medium that's very bubbly, and it was, but we solved that one. So
All right.
I don't think there's anything we can't do.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. We're out of time, but be sure to check out Balloon Manor, the amazing air-filled undersea adventure. It runs through March 8th at the Sibley Building. Visit balloonmanor.com for more details. Thanks for joining us on CityWise.